Good afternoon, dreamers. I'm so excited to be coming at you from the middle of the day. I've actually gotten zero things done for business today just because Tuesdays I've discovered are kind of a weird day for me. So I'm still working on my new at-home schedule. But as I was something hit me on the way home from the meeting that I just had, and it felt right as I was seeing your feedback on the post this morning about investing or stewardship, really. That's what it's all about. But part of stewardship is that investment piece, right? Like, what do we do with that piece of the puzzle? Because that's the part that's tricky, right? That's the part where we have to release and trust, and that's the part where we want to make sure to get everything right and to do things the right way, and so it made me think of a couple of things. One is, I think, here's what's interesting about online business, right, is that it truly takes so little to start up that we, money-wise, that sometimes we feel really almost like bad stewards for releasing more money than is necessary, right? Or we feel like it's more responsible just to keep things low and slow, right? Like you're, smoking a brisket. I don't know why I just said that. That's something my husband would say. And here's the thing, though. Imagine if you weren't starting an online business, right? Imagine if you were starting a restaurant or a boutique, right? Would you even try to do that for like $100 a month? Would you be able to? Is that something that's even possible? Maybe you go get a bank loan. That's still money, right? Or maybe you've saved up for years to start this. And it just becomes that thing. So like when you think about your business, don't just think of it as an online business, right? Think of it as it's not only your purpose and your ministry, but think of it like a business. If you had to write up a business plan and a budget and all of that stuff, what would that look like? How would you really do best to invest in yourself? And that reminded me of something else, which is the parable of the talents from Matthew 25. So the gist of it is this. There's a guy who has some servants who are really trusted for him. And he, it's called the talents, which is funny. It's money, but it's called talents, which I think is really interesting for us today as we think of stewardship as bigger than money, right? So to one, he gave 5 talents, and to another he gave 2 talents, and to another he gave 1 talent. Each according to his ability, right? So each of these, the one who got 5, he trusted the most. The one who got 2, he trusted the second amount. The one who got 3, he still trusted with 1, which is more than he trusted any of his other servants, right? So the one who received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So he walks away with 10. The one who had 2 made 2 talents more. But the one who had 1 went and dug in the ground and hid it. So he buried the money. And so when his master gets back, the first guy says, "You delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have 5 more." And he said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much." And then the second one, it's the same thing. "I took these 2 and I turned it into 2." He's like, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And the third guy, I'm kind of like trying to make sure I don't mess up the Bible story, who had 1, and he comes back with just the 1, right? He came forward, he said, "I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, have what is yours." And he said, "You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scatter no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest." So even just saying, like, I gave you this 1, and you buried it in the ground. Like, you should have at least put it in the bank, right? And it would have had like a few extra coins. And so he's saying, like, everyone, sorry, I keep wanting to read it. So, for to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away, and cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So just imagine, right? He's not counting success by you being able to hold on to as much of that as you can. He's counting success by you being able to use your skills and use what you have been given to create something more. And that's what the stewardship is, right? Whether it's your time, whether it's your talent, whether it's your treasure, those are all things that we invest in order to create a bigger impact, to build God's kingdom. And I know what you're thinking. It's a lot easier when it's somebody else's money, right? Like, if the bank gave you a loan, you would know exactly where you're putting that money, don't you? If your parents gave you money in your dream, or if you had some other investors, you know exactly where that money would go. And it feels different when it's someone else's money. But now let's look at it biblically, right? So we have this parable of the talents. We look at how we know what we would spend money on. But what if I told you your money isn't yours, right? So let's think about it. Your money isn't yours. Your money is God's. And he's expecting you to take that money, to take those gifts he's given you, and to take your time, all of these hours that he's put you on this earth, and to do more with them. Not to just stay at the status quo, right? He's given us very specific instruction. And so that's where you have to determine where your priorities are and where is the next, what's the best investment, in those things, in yourself. And I think that's where we kind of lose track, because we want to be counted as good and faithful servants. I cannot tell you how many sermons that I've heard about, being a good and faithful servant. Like, when we show up at heaven's gates, that's all we want to hear is, well done, good and faithful servant. But we forget that it doesn't mean just following the rules. It doesn't mean, sorry, I'm going to cry because because there was a time in my life where all I wanted was to follow the rules, follow the plan, do everything in line, right? Exactly what the safest thing. And honestly, I think that really distorted my faith for a long time, because then it was in my control, right? I didn't have to step out in faith because I just needed to follow the rules and keep things even, right? That's usually what we're looking for, is just evenness. But when it comes to business, the only way to succeed is to go up, right? Because if you're just even, then you're not making any money. And so you need to go up. And that means you need to put money in it in some way. And that's where grace, that's where faith, that's where all of this comes in. And just this wisdom and discernment, like the things that the Holy Spirit has already placed in us, we are capable of doing. Those gifts that he's asked you to use, you are capable of them because he's given them to you. And so we need to be brave, we need to be bold, and we need to be wise. I'm not saying go pay every person to do everything for you. I will say that's not the best investment for you all the time, but we need to have this freedom to look at our money and go, God, this is your money. How can I use this to fulfill the purpose that you've given me? Is it software? Is it employees? Is it, I don't know, some back-end system stuff? Is it coaching? Is it courses? Like, what is that investment? Is it space? Is it more time? And so time would probably be more people, so I kind of cover that. But really praying and saying, God, I have my 5 talents because I think you all have been entrusted with a lot. The more I see from you all, y'all have, families, and a lot of you have jobs or other businesses, and you're starting to experience this pivot where you're trying to build something new, and it's scary. It's terrifying to build something new and scary. And sometimes we cut ourselves off from the blessing by not believing that God wants us to invest in ourselves. Because I don't see any of those things as really investments in somebody else. I think it's an investment in yourself and an investment in God's promises. And I can't tell you that every investment's going to return 70 million, like 700% or anything like that. I can't tell you that. Some investments won't pan out. And I think that's where our wisdom and discernment comes in, or even just recognizing that our job is to follow the Spirit's leading. And we need to be open to not make money something that we're scared of, and we need to make it something that builds us up instead of something that's taboo, something that we run away from. Because if you run away from money in your business, you won't have a business. So whether that's running away from the money that you have now and burying it like that first guy, or not being open to receiving what's coming for you, not being able to take payment or money for what you're worth, what your clients want to pay you. Both of those types of running away will kill your business. You have to be open to giving and receiving, right? So I want you to really pray through, what does stewardship look like for you? What are the resources that God has already entrusted you with? And how does that look in your business today, this month, this week? What does that look like? Where do you need help? Where do you need extra? Where do you need to be supported because the gifts that you have aren't in that area? And that's okay. Like Jen and I were talking on our live stream yesterday. He created us with certain gifts so that together we are a unit. Together we are one. And so I absolutely need help from other people. I can do a lot of things on my own, but I definitely need some help with, bookkeeping. Like, I need to get an accountant and taxes and things like that. I needed time, so I hired a VA so that she could take some things off my plate. I needed energy and focus, so I left my job to do this. And I needed outside look inside my business, so I hired a coach, and all of those things are incredibly important investments to me, and they all return on investment in different ways. Some of them monetarily, some of them not, some of them have literally just been peace of mind and clarity. But that allows me to do more and to be more present for my clients as well. And so you need to find that balance for yourself. You need to know, you need to really examine where is the most good, right? Because even your time and your talents and your treasure, none of that is yours either. He gave them to you to steward. He gave them to you to help other people, right? Like, we are blessed. God is with us. He has given us these things to be a blessing to other people. And if you're just sitting there holding them to yourself, it's not healthy. It's disobedient, and it's not going to satisfy you. It's safe, but it's not satisfactory. And so we all need to come to God and say, this is what I have, use it. Tell me where to use it. Tell me where to invest my time, talent, and treasure. Show me, so that I can be the kingdom worker that you want me to be, so that I can build the kingdom in the unique way that you made me to build the kingdom. So think about if you had your 5 talents. What are your 5 talents? What are the things that they are? And they don't have to be actual gifts, but you get what I mean. It's a parable. What are your 5 talents? And then what are ways that you can turn those into new things? And that's where you need to start. Okay. I also just want to say that I believe you are all faithful servants. I believe that the reason you are here, the reason you are watching and listening and reading this stuff and building a business is because God has asked you to use this time, your talents for Him. He has given you things and you are on your way to being a good steward. But I think we've limited what that looks like. So let's expand what we believe God has got, the resources God has entrusted to us. Let's expand that definition and start working within it so that we are not just a good and faithful servant in the actions we take, but we're a good and faithful servant with all the other resources that we have. Because I believe that you are one, and I know that you want to be one, and I think that's the key to making it happen. All right, love you guys. Talk to you soon.